Sark is the smallest of the 4 main Channel Islands and is situated 12 miles from Jersey and 7 miles from Guernsey. It is just over 3 miles in length and has a permanent population of about 600 people, but it attracts a constant flow of holidaymakers and day trippers. Sark is best known for being an island of peace and quiet. It has many beautiful gardens, and there are no motor cars even on the main street. The general form of transport for visitors is a horse and cart, but these vie for space on the road with tractors and bicycles. Here the girls are passing one of the many vineyards. A well-known area of Sark is the narrow road across La Coupe, which is the junction of the main island and Little Sark. At this point there is an almost sheer drop of 100 metres on either side, and the protective railings were only erected in 1900, with the road being built in 1945. For all its small size, Sark has a massively indented coastline, so that a complete walk around the coast would cover over 40 miles. But we are not coming with the intention of visiting the charms to be found on Sark. We are going to be exploring it from the seaside. Our trip has been arranged by Jersey Kayak Adventures, and we shall be travelling across from St Catherine's on the northeast coast of Jersey. We shall sail on La Duchesse de Normandie, bringing our kayaks with us. 5 of us will be paddling, but we also have a young visitor and his mum along for the ride. It's 7 in the morning, but as soon as we're loaded we cast off and are on our way across the north coast of Jersey. As Jersey recedes into the distance, the familiar shape of Sark draws ever nearer. It's taken a couple of hours, but we are now nearing the bay of La Grève de la Ville, where we shall be mooring, along with various other pleasure craft. We can see the lighthouse on Point Robert, and we have our first view of the coast, which is typically sheer and steep, although apparently there is a narrow path to the top. The crew lower our kayaks to the water, and we are able to enter them, complete with the crash helmets that may be needed for cave exploration. Our leader Derek gives us an outline of our plans, which is basically to circumnavigate the island in an anti-clockwise direction. As Sark is composed of granite, which is comparatively soft, it is quite easily eroded by the forces of nature, creating many fascinating caves and arches. And here we see the Fairies' Grotto at the north of Les Fontaines Bay. Looking down, we could equally well be diving, the water is so clear. As we head north, we are able to see Guernsey through this gap, and if the tide were higher, we could take a shortcut. However, we have to paddle right round the Bec du Nez, the most northern tip. And as we round the point, we are hit by the southerly wind and a noticeable swell, meaning it's time to paddle hard. In due course, we reach some shelter and have time to take in the view of the private island of Brecou, where the reclusive Barclay brothers live in the magnificent white building. As we traverse the coast, we pass various small beaches inaccessible from land, and then these magnificent stacks, home to many breeding seabird colonies. But it's time for a break, so we decide to land at the rocky beach of Port du Moulin. Opposite us, in the distance, we can now see Guernsey, and even make out that there is a cruise liner visiting. Another of the famous arches borders the north of the beach, and we would have been able to kayak through it at a higher tide. To the south we are able to see Port-à-la-Jument, where some pleasure craft are moored. Trudy, an amateur geologist, can scarcely be drawn away from the unusual rock formations to be found. Back afloat we soon pass some fellow seafarers. But then we venture into our first cave, which is narrow enough to involve careful manoeuvring, but not low enough to use our crash helmets. As we travel further on, we spot another arch which indicates our next stop, the famous Gouliot Caves. These are otherwise known as the jewel caves due to the beautiful sea anemones covering the walls. There's plenty of scope for further exploration here, but today we don't have the time available. We pause to admire a jellyfish that is sharing the water with us, and then we are able to visit the adjacent cave with its low entrance. We shall next have to negotiate the narrow Gulio passage, but then we find ourselves at Havre Gosselin, a popular fishing spot below the Pilcher Monument. Now we are passing La Coupe, the join with Little Sark, and several brave beachgoers have ventured down the steep path to the Grand Grève beach. As we leave, we meet fellow tourists enjoying a trip with George Giel on his boat Nonpareil.
Good morning, lovely day for a trip.
As we traverse the southern coast, we can see the remaining evidence of the silver mines that used to be worked here. And now that we have reached the east coast, we decide that it is time to pull into Pot Bay to relax and enjoy our picnic lunches. But the tide has now turned, telling us it is time to set off again. And we are soon caught up in more cave exploration. We pass the popular Descartes Bay without stopping, as there is so much to see around here. Most of us pass by this entrance, so only Trudy lands and discovers Creux d'Erebel, a 60-metre high hole. After finding our way through this narrow passage, we emerge to find ourselves outside Creux Harbour, which was built in the 1860s and is used by the local craft. Here there is another popular beach, and so we land again and are delighted to rejoin our fellow passengers from Jersey. Soon we all adjourn to the harbour cafe for a welcome hot drink. Outside, tourists are leaving to meet their ferries for home. And although the local transport, known hereabouts as the toast rack, is waiting to take anyone who wants up the hill to the little town centre, sadly we have no time today. For we have to leave this happy local playground and launch again to make our planned rendezvous. On the way we pass the more modern Massaline Harbour, which is the mooring point for the passenger ferries. And we say farewell to the local birds as we paddle to meet up with the Duchess of Normandy. We manage to manoeuvre ourselves aboard, and the craft are again safely stored. It's now 4:30, so we say farewell and depart from this delightful island. The trip home is without incident and allows for us to have some rest. But soon we are rounding St. Catherine's breakwater and safely landing. We watch La Duchesse leave us, and the kayaks are again safely secured for transport home after our truly fantastic day with wonderful memories for us all of Sark and its coastline.